Hello everyone. This is Tobi from the Phuket Meditation Center, and you're listening to the Dharana Meditation Podcast. Let's sit together, calm the busy mind, and explore topics concerning character development, meditative training, and deeper self-knowledge.
So let's begin by sitting upright. The head is suspended from above. Body is relaxed, at ease. Drop all the unnecessary tension in the body. Let it gradually melt down. Throughout the practice, aim for stillness in the body, moving as little as possible. Instead, relaxing inwardly, dropping the restlessness, the reactivity, and gradually allowing all this unnecessary inner and outer tension to dissolve. Breathing in a way that feels good, that you enjoy. Give up any kind of breath that you have learned from a book or a video, or that you think you should be breathing like this. Instead, really listen to what your body wants. And do this with each single breath. Just exploring what feels nice. And as you stop superimposing techniques and so on, your body will be quite grateful. And as a result, it begins to really settle down and relax. Usually, as a result of relaxing with your breathing, the breath will drop into a deeper level of the body, dropping into the belly, and usually also slowing down. as a result of being comfortable with your breathing, not as a result of forcing your breath. Receiving yourself with kindness, with compassion. Let there be this open, warm acceptance of what is. Abandon the idea that you are broken, and that you're here to fix yourself in some way. Should be much more an attitude of wanting to get to know yourself. As you breathe in, let the consciousness spread out into your whole body. As you breathe out, softening, releasing all the unnecessary tension. Feeling on the in-breath, releasing on the out-breath. Each time you breathe out, it's almost as if you were to allow gravity to pass through your whole body. allowing it to dissolve all these points of resistance, those little pockets of tension, giving up the fight against gravity. Breathing in, finding space in the body, and breathing out, softening, releasing. Gradually letting go of all the flight and flight response in the body. The nervous system cool down. Let the reactivity of the mind settle down. Allow everything to fall into place, become more and more still. Now within that relaxed, open state, I'd like you to become aware of the way your attention moves from object to object. Let's start with just observing sound, listening to the various noises and sounds that are close to you, that are far in the distance. Notice how your attention moves naturally from sound to sound. There's nothing that you need to do about this. Simply know where your attention is right now. And the same goes on within the realm of feeling and sensations. Notice how your attention goes from sensation to sensation naturally, effortlessly. Now you can combine those two. Notice how the attention moves from sound to feeling, from feeling to feeling, from feeling back to sounds, jumping back and forth. The task is to simply know where the attention is right now. While allowing it to move naturally. What am I aware of right now? And you will find that that's not all. The attention doesn't just move to sound and feeling, but also sometimes to smell, sometimes to sight. And of course, very often also to thoughts. Again, the task is always the same. Simply know that. There's no forbidden place. Your attention is allowed to freely move. The only problem at this stage would be if you don't know where your attention is because you're lost within the action. You become the thinker rather than seeing that thoughts arise and pass. That will be an error.
Simply know what is happening while it is happening. There's no need to change anything or control anything. Knowing it is enough. To some people, it really is helpful to label whatever it is that you are experiencing right now. If you're labeling, then do this with great simplicity. For example, hearing, feeling, thinking, and so forth. Rather than hearing the fountain, now I'm hearing the air condition. The air condition sounds really nice. It's very stable. What's that voice outside? Or someone's moving. Now I'm thinking about it, and so on. That's a bit too complex. It steers up the mind too much. So keep it simple. Hearing, feeling, thinking, seeing. Liking, disliking. Not only just knowing where your attention is, but at the same time you will know what it is that you are doing as well. What am I doing right this second? Am I fighting against myself? Am I pursuing something, chasing? Am I trying? Am I resting? Am I complaining? Judging? Enjoying? Indulging? And again, I say it again and again. There's nothing to get rid of, and there's nothing to acquire. The aim here is to simply know yourself as you are. While remaining centered in this self-knowing, the observation of your experience in this moment, you can slowly come back and open your eyes, perhaps gently stretch a little bit if you like. But remember to stay centered, knowing yourself. All right, good morning, everyone. So perhaps today we can look into something that is very often requested, which is basically, well, how do you get started with this? What is it that you should be doing first? And why to do it too? So perhaps it's a good idea to go through this a little bit, give you all the opportunity to perhaps really get started properly and set up your own practice. The very first thing I'd concern myself with would be the question, why? Why sit down and meditate? Why practice this? Analyze carefully. What's your true reason for doing that? What do you personally really look for? Forget all the books you've read, all the videos you've watched about the topic, the teachers you've heard. What is it that you want? A lot of people are not clear about this at all. And it shows. As soon as life gets difficult, as soon as things get into the way, usually people abandon their practice. That's why, because there is no solid sense of purpose, or your purpose doesn't reach very far. It could be a purpose such as, well, I want to belong to a group of people. I want to be one of those people that can say about themselves, I meditate daily, because that would serve my self-image, what I want to portray to the world. I am somebody that meditates regularly. Well, that gives me plus points. That gives me, it gives me score. People will then look at me as somebody that's pretty cool because I do meditation all the time, and I can actually say that about myself. So it's maybe a matter of pride why we do it, or we want to be better people, whatever that really means. I meditate because then I'm a better person. What do you really mean by that? If that's what the answer you come up with, question that answer. You can sit down and write it down. You start with, why do I want to integrate meditation into my life? Then come up with your very best answer. Take some time to think it through. What's the best answer that you could possibly give to that question? Why meditation? Why do this? Why bother? I mean, you'd have to sacrifice time, energy. You'd have to restructure your life to accommodate meditation. It's not the other way around. You can't expect to, make meditation come down to your level. You have to rise up to the level of meditation. It goes this way. But you have to completely conform to what is required of you. You can't have it the other way around. It's like, I want to do meditation, but I want to do it my way. It won't work. You have to change for the sake of attaining. Like any athlete knows that. I have to change my body in order to be able to lift X amount of pounds. I have to change my body in order to run that fast. And I have to, if I want to run that fast, I have to make the changes happen within myself so I can run that fast. Yes. So we're not pulling the odds down to our level. We're rising up to the odds. Why would you make that sacrifice? This is a huge sacrifice. You'd have to give up a lot of things that you like and prefer. A lot of people don't know that. They think they can have it both ways. I can be all meditative and peaceful and calm and quiet, while at the same time creating a lot of noise in my life and doing exactly what I like. Well, if you're not clear about this, then perhaps the best you will get out of it is just a bit of confused practice every now and then that doesn't really lead to anything solid or lasting. It's kind of not better than taking a nap, really. It gives you a bit of relaxation, and that's that. So if that's what you want, then write that down. Then ask yourself, why do I want this? Keep asking good questions to yourself until you've covered all the answers and all the questions. It's not easy to take the time to ask yourself good questions. It's not just an easy kind of a little thing that everyone just does anyways during the day. We have to get out of our ways to actually take the time to do this, and it's well worth it. Once you have a very clear why and you're actually interested in developing meditation proper, going into stillness, becoming peaceful, producing your own happiness, homemade happiness that comes from within your own body, so that you become independent from people around you. You don't have to go around and beg people to make you happy. You don't have to seek in circumstances for happiness, but you can produce it yourself regardless of what goes on around you, if that's what you want. Then it requires sacrifice. It requires the sacrifice of time, requires the sacrifice of energy, and requires the sacrifice of giving up your old character, your old lifestyle, who you've been. That's usually the most clear thing with any other art in this world, anything you'd like to develop. If you want to make $1 million, you'd have to give up certain things, belief systems. You'd have to give up actions that keep you poor. You'd have to associate with people that guarantee that you become that wealthy, and so on and so forth. You'd have to do a lot of things to become a millionaire. It just doesn't happen from wishing alone. You can just sit on your couch and go, well, it would be awesome if I was a millionaire. If I was a millionaire, I would do this, I would do that, and I have a vision board and I visualize myself being a millionaire, but I absolutely do not become one in action. Where is the million going to come from? You have to become that person in action. Slowly align yourself with that type of lifestyle. If that's contrary to the lifestyle you're living right now, you won't get there. It has to be in alignment. So that's the very, very first thing. That's why we need to have a powerful why. And that powerful why carries you through the hard times when you doubt yourself, when you doubt your practice. I've watched this documentary about the Marines and the training that they go through, which is like one of the last weeks of their foundational training, something like this is called Hell Week. And this Hell Week is about like really pushing your limits. And a lot of people are given, everyone is actually given the opportunity to give up whenever they want to. They just have to ring a bell and put their helmets down, and then that's that. Why would you go through this intense hardship if you don't have to? So they all are, this is the challenge. They are pushed through intense hardship and they don't have to do it. So when they hit their darkest time, when it's super cold, when they haven't had any sleep and the drill instructors are shouting them down, constantly abusing them, breaking them, at some point they will start to wonder, what on earth am I doing here? So then they start to wonder about their purpose. It's a difficult, challenging moment. And that same thing is true for meditation practice. At some point in your life, you will then ask yourself, why on earth am I getting up in the morning early? Why am I doing my meditation practice before everything else? Why am I stressing out about my routines, my timing, my lifestyle, my habits, and so on to accommodate meditation practice when I could be comfortable instead? In other words, why would you make sacrifice for ultimate comfort when you could have expedient comfort right now? You could just push a button and you'd be nicely entertained, and you could just lie down and you'd be nicely comfortable. Why make effort to still your mind? Just don't get me wrong, it's effort. In the beginning particularly, you have to make plenty of effort to accommodate meditation. It's not easy. We're not a hugely popular place. And I think it boils also down to that reason, because I'm not a fan of teaching comfort, because I believe it makes people weak and it doesn't give you skill. You're never developing skill if you are comfortable. Neither do I think that you should be uncomfortable. I rather think you should do what it takes to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. Simple stuff, really, basic stuff. So that's why we need a clear why. Again, once you have a clear why, what's the first thing to actually practically do? Aim for frequency. First thing. Sit regularly as you can. Make that a training in your life to show up again and again and again and again. Because when you have frequency, you can begin to measure. If you can measure, you know whether you're moving towards your goal or not. If you can't measure, you're kind of like going by chance. If you meditate on-off, you will never really know whether you're actually getting somewhere with your practice. Then what is meditation in our lives? Then it's like a nap. You don't measure your naps, because they have an instant goal, which is just to relax you right now. It's to get you out of trouble right now. So it's kind of like a painkiller. It's a coping mechanism. And meditation is kind of the opposite of a coping mechanism. It's supposed to get you out of coping into transcending. It's a very different ball game altogether. The example that I like to usually give here is, think of people being on a beach building a sandcastle. And they're really serious about this sandcastle. They want to make sure that it's a beautiful sandcastle that accommodates all their friends. It's like magnificent. They compare their own sandcastle with all the other sandcastles that are on the beach. But while we're all busy building our sandcastles, we don't realize that high tide's approaching and the waves are rolling in. So we take our sandcastles really seriously because we don't know that the tides are rolling in. If we knew that, we would then perhaps change the location where we build a reliable shelter, perhaps further upshore, because that's where you're safe. And even when the tides are rolling in, the house you build is reliable. For the person that doesn't practice these things, that they only have unreliable refuges. It means when suffering strikes and takes their things away, they suffer a great deal. So we can ask ourselves, am I capable of suffering? If circumstances were to change, if I were to get ill, if I were to lose the things that I love and so on, would I still be at ease? Would I still be happy? Or would I be lost? Would I be in pain, desperate, unhappy? So, am I dependent on circumstance? Am I building my house on an unstable, shaky ground? Is the substance that I built my house out of shaky and unstable? Can it be taken away? Can my happiness be taken from me? How would you answer that question? If you were to answer with 100% sincerity and honesty, I'd have to say yes. My happiness can be taken from me. That's plenty of reason for me to work on a happiness that can't be taken from me, no matter what. To work on peace and, comfort within myself that can't be taken from me. That's the purpose of meditation practice. It anchors you in something that is much deeper than sandcastles could ever be. And by sandcastles, we talk money, relationships, health. All these things are going to disappoint you. So if we invest 100% energy in things that will disappoint us eventually, it's not a clever investment. It'd be a much better investment to perhaps go for 50% into things that will eventually disappoint you and 50% into things that won't disappoint you ever. So to become independent of external factors, of what goes on in your life. In Germany, very often when you ask people, how are you doing? They say, well, it's in accordance with circumstance. That's what they answer if you translate it. I'm doing it. It's in accordance with circumstance. And usually they answer that when they mean not so good. I'm doing not so well. Well, in accordance with circumstance. Have you read the newspaper this morning? That's how I'm doing. I've lost money last week. That's how I'm doing. That's not too good, man. This is very unstable. And as long as we ourselves are honest with ourselves and find out, oh, well, that's me. I'm like that. It's not those other people. It's me, actually. I'm dependent on circumstance. There's work to be done very, very seriously. Because it's about our happiness. It's about our suffering. And it's about freedom, really. So the first way to do it is to establish frequency, and then you can measure, as you are frequently sitting down, whether you are approaching your goal or whether you're moving away from it. You can only do measurement if you show up. Like if you hit the gym regularly, right, you can measure, are you getting better? Are you able to lift more? Are you able to do more pull-ups and whatnot? You can only do that if you show up all the time. If you show up like once a month, you can't do much measurement. You won't do much progress. Same with meditation, right? The masters give this beautiful example of building a fire using a stick, and then you roll the stick, you create friction. As you create friction, if you stop, the heat will fade. Every time you stop, the heat will go away again. Then you start again, you have to build heat basically almost always from scratch. It only works if you can consistently build enough heat until there is a spark, and then you nourish your fire with that. You can start a fire with that. If you don't have the what is it called, the embers, you can't make a fire. And the period in meditation practice where you're building the ember, where you're building the spark, is pretty hard work. You need a lot of frequency. You can't just be on and off, on and off. You have to have thorough frequency. Once you get the ember, you understand how happiness arises from yourself, and particularly from stillness. You won't have to motivate yourself, because then you understand, oh wow, this is nice. This feels good. And then you will be able to think further. If I am able to build a fire, I can keep the mosquitoes away. I can keep wild animals at bay. I can cook my food. I can purify my water. I keep myself warm at night. I can see things at night. Plenty of benefit, right? Same with meditation, exactly identical. You can keep the mosquitoes at bay, meaning if you have the power of happiness within yourself, if there's a bright fire burning within your heart, the fire of stillness, you won't be bothered by circumstance. Mosquitoes won't bother you. And you will have plenty of light to see in the darkness. And wild animals stay at bay. Massive problems will stay at bay. They can't get to you because you are not reactive. This is a thing that meditators don't get into a lot of trouble because they don't run their mouths without control, for example. They don't just react emotionally about whatever comes to them. They're very calm, non-reactive, and rested within themselves. Furthermore, they don't get themselves into trouble because they don't seek other people to make them happy. They don't have that trouble. Their relationships are not selfish. They're not based on, well, as long as you make me happy, I stick around you. But if you don't make me happy anymore, I need to find someone else that does it. So the relationships are not selfish in that way, so they have much less trouble with other people. Like, it's so disappointing. You've disappointed me. The problem is not that other people disappoint us. The problem is that we are leaning on them. That's my own mistake. If I'm leaning on someone else, I'm leaning on someone that is not reliable. Like building my sandcastle on a beach. It's not reliable. If we lean on things that change, your happiness is bound to change. If you depend on something that pulls you up and yanks you down, well, you're going to go up and then you're going to be pulled down. But that's not because that the roller coaster is so bad. It's because you got on it. You know, meditators don't tend to get on those roller coasters, so they don't get the problem of up and down. They're quite at ease then. So a lot of problems will stay away from you simply because of that. So there's plenty of benefits to meditation. You can purify your water. You can purify your mind, in other words. If your mind becomes more pure, you can see more clearly. You're not confused about things. You can see what things are beyond your own conditioned thinking of them. I'm not seeing my own thoughts about other people. I see other people. Otherwise, we see our perceptions of them. My teacher always used to say that when I complained about someone and back in the day, like I would go like, oh, I don't like this person. My teacher would say, well, they appear unlikable. So he constantly reminded me that the problem is not the other person. The problem is my perception of the other person. And that's something I can control. That's something I can do something about. I can't do anything about the other person. That'd be infringing upon their right of freedom. But I can do something about myself. That's a freedom. It's a degree of freedom, isn't it? Like, I'm not forced to grumble the entire day and complain in my own head about another person. No one forces me to do that. Why would I do it? Why would I pull myself down like that? It's pointless. I only do it because I don't know myself. I don't know what I'm doing. Therefore, I can't just interrupt it and stop it. So I have to harm myself because I don't know myself. So the past constantly wins. That's really unfortunate. A meditator doesn't have that problem. They can see what they're doing. They have self-knowledge. They can interrupt self-harm. And thereby interrupting harming other people. So when we harm ourselves, we don't have to share it with others. If you stop harming yourself, you stop harming others, basically. If you harm yourself, you harm others. If you harm others, you harm yourself. It's totally a losing thing to do. So if you can stop harming yourself, much better. So these are all reasons why we should make effort to cultivate self-knowledge and stillness, to fabricate, to produce our own happiness, rather than borrowing it from things that are unreliable and changing all the time. So here's the first two things: the why, the purpose, and the frequency. Build frequency. And then start measuring. Start building qualities within yourself. If you show up every day, you can be very precise in what kind of qualities you build. And then you can put them to the test throughout the day, in between your sessions. That will be the very first thing I recommend to any beginner. Ask yourself why, and then start by building a regular, a routine practice. And that's hard already for a lot of us. Like sitting down and showing up every day at a certain time or something like this. Life will get in the way and challenge your why. Every time life gets in the way, you're challenged again to ask yourself, why was I doing this again? Why am I showing up again? What's my purpose? Why would I make effort again? It's like that. That's, in my experience, that's the struggle. Back and forth. Why would I do this again? Yeah, that's why I'm doing this, okay? I need to motivate myself again, then show back up on the mat, start it again, and start it again every day, like that. And eventually, you'll get to see the benefits very clearly. There's more things, but perhaps not today, maybe next Tuesday. We can explore some more points for the beginners. Okay? I hope that was helpful to some extent. Thank you very much for showing up today. We hope you enjoyed this episode and had a meaningful time. For more information and upcoming events, head over to our website at phuket-meditation.com. Thank you very much for listening and have a wonderful day.